Hi, this is Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I specifically want to talk about um, the. There's so much happening right now. I specifically want to talk about understanding Strixhaven as the ultimate Ellis Island. All right, so one of the things that I can't tell you, like, I list so many video ideas every single day, and I can't even get to 10% of them. There's so much happening. Like, look at Nerd Immersion's last video. He talks about D&D Legos. He talks about Dungeons and Dragons television show. He talks about a Dungeons and Dragons new vice president. He's drowning in news, right? Like, he really does try to address everything, and it's impossible. Like, there's so much he talks about so I've been saying this stuff for years, and now the whole world is just like I told you was going to happen. I say something 3 years ago, and then Forbes says it today, right? And Forbes is like, hey, I've been telling you, Dungeons and Dragons is taking fantasy and handing it to America as pure ownership. Forbes is openly discussing that D&D could be a mega intellectual property that could be replacing Harry Potter. It's amazing what's happening with Dungeons and Dragons right now, and even the whole world is talking about Dungeons and Dragons. No one is talking about the OSSR except for West Coast Grognard, right? Like, he's the only one who is even acknowledging it still exists anymore. Like, the OSR is like, do we even matter? Do we exist? Is it a thing? Like, that's the biggest discussion in the OSR right now, is if they're even real, right? Like, it's incredible, right? So, all right. So here's the thing. Basically, I knew the moment I saw Strixhaven, I was like, this thing is going to be huge. And I understood that Amanda Heyman had really turned the door and was opening the second gate in Dungeons & Dragons. Gary Gygax opened the combat gate in 1974 with high rules mechanical complexity. Amanda Heyman opened up the social interaction pillar with high rules mechanical complexity in 2021. And I knew Strixhaven was going to be absolutely integral from that perspective. What I didn't know, and this is why Dungeons & Dragons is so special, is when a Dungeons & Dragons writer writes, they're often saying, they're almost never saying one thing. They're saying 3 to 7 things. And I recognized what Amanda Heyman was saying about social interaction, but I did not understand what she was saying about immigration. And what you need to understand about Dungeons & Dragons is it always has a lot to say about American politics, American religion, and American culture. And the biggest thing that I'm now realizing that we missed about Strixhaven is a massive statement on American immigration. And we need to unpack what Strixhaven says about American immigration. So first of all, Strixhaven is this massively important book from multiple facets. It's a diamond, and the light shines off of it in different directions, right? So what is the first, so the first one I already mentioned, just what it does for social interaction. But the next one is immigration and understanding immigration, okay? So here's the issue. Right now with Dungeons & Dragons, we are farther out on this than... So first of all, there's just so much... I appreciate your patience. The interconnections are so complex, and everyone is so behind, right? I really appreciate the viewers who try to understand where I'm heading, but there's just people. It's just so hard to keep up with what's actually happening on Dungeons and Dragons. So let me explain what's actually happening on Dungeons and Dragons. So Dungeons and Dragons in 1974 transformed narrative. I've already discussed that, right? So what it's doing right now, and that didn't stop. Basically, Gary's legacy makes sure that everybody who's writing and honoring him, like Amanda Heyman, that his multifaceted, multi-messaged form of communication remains, okay? So what's really happening right now is with Dungeons & Dragons, all of the Dungeons & Dragons D&D design team are engaged in what's called intellectual property expansion, IPE, intellectual property expansion. By the way, I coined this term. I've never seen it anywhere. It's needed to discuss Dungeons & Dragons. IPE, intellectual property expansion. Right now, Dungeons & Dragons is involved in the biggest intellectual property expansion that has ever happened on the human earth, on our IRL world, okay? This is not debatable. Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons are massively connected. Wizards of the Coast said, I don't even acknowledge that they have the right to determine canon, but they did. But let's look at what they said. They said, here's what's canon: 2014 hardback. Now, this isn't all that's canon, but they are saying this is absolutely canon, right? So they're acknowledging this as part of the canon, right? And the reason people are like, well, that's all the canon. You didn't listen to what canon changes came in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, which I also did a video on, right? And that expands canon far more than what I'm about to say. But what I'm about to say that Wizards said, right, is absolutely canon. They said if it's 2014 forward and it's a D&D hardback, it's canon. Strixhaven is a D&D hardback, right? And Strixhaven is an MTG set. It's canon on both sides. And guess what? It is now the ultimate Ellis Island. The ultimate Ellis Island. The ultimate Ellis Island. So here's what happens. Immigrants in the IRL, this has been happening for 200 years. They leave their, worst countries, and they come to America, the best country in the world, right? And they make it, right? Like, that's the process, right? That's exactly what happens with Strixhaven, okay? Oh, yeah, okay. I see you over there, Space Marine. Well, your Soul Ring is in Dominaria, and your Soul Ring is in the Forgotten Realms. It's printed in all three, right? So that means your universe is connected to Magic the Gathering. It's connected to Dominaria. Once you get to Dominaria, you can get to Strixhaven. Once you're on the Strixhaven on the Magic the Gathering side, Strixhaven exists by canon in Dungeons and Dragons. The bridge is real, right? And so it's narrative. The bridge, the narrative bridge is there, right? These worlds are connected. It's not debatable. It's if you just look at the promotion, the packaging, the narrative, the lore, the art, it's there. It's done. It's finished, right? The bridge is built, right? So basically, and that's the issue is that's what Strixhaven is doing, and basically Liliana is the person there that leads everybody. If you can get to anywhere within the Magic world, right, you can get into Dungeons and Dragons, and Liliana will take you by hand, right? And that's the issue. And millions, literally millions, actually not millions, thousands of characters, no, millions, because there's millions of people in the Warhammer world alone are coming right over that narrative bridge, right? And Strixhaven is now the ultimate Ellis Island. And yeah, and like Space Marines, we know you were in that sucky Warhammer world, but you're in D&D now. Welcome, right? And just like the IRL, where whatever, scrub country you were from, now you're in America. You people risk their lives to get here. Some people die trying to get here, right? Amen. We're welcome to have you. Like, not amen to them. Amen to the attempt, not to the failure, right? And coyotes, you guys should do better jobs, in my humble opinion. All right, and keep your people safer. All right, so basically, Wizards of the Coast has a lot to say about American immigration today, and it's right there, and you can read it in Strixhaven. The problem is the vast majority of OSR have lots of opinions about Strixhaven, but don't own it, never read it, and so they just walk forward, they flap their blah, 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 and just spew out all their ignorance and marinate in it. That's what the OSR is now. It's just a group of people marinating in their own ignorance, wondering if they're actually a thing, right? So this is where we've landed, and Strixhaven is the ultimate Ellis Island. And what's happening with this intellectual property expansion, this is completely unprecedented. And if you think I'm wrong, that this is all going on and that the law just doesn't understand what's happening, I just want to point you to what the Supreme Court talked about yesterday. They talked about Andy Warhol, who's dead, taking a picture of Prince, who's dead, and they gave a ruling on this like 20, 30 years later, right? Like, this is absurd. Like, they're so far behind. They're still discussing whether an artist can paint a picture, right? You think they even have the language to discuss intellectual property expansion? We're setting the bar. We're setting the standards. And when they catch up 30 years from now, what you and I have talked about and what we set for how intellectual property expansion actually works, beyond what the suits think and don't know, that's where it's going to rest. That's my humble opinion. I'm ready to hear yours. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.